Hey guys, want to talk to you about the Beastmen today and what they might be getting with the upcoming DLC, if they are in fact the DLC race. Let's start with the Lords. You have Gorus Warhoof, which is a Centaur Lord. He's fairly well liked by fandom. Uh, he's fairly unique from a Beastman point of view. I think he would lend himself to creating large amounts of new meta builds for Beastmen. It'd make them even more mobile, even easier to like a chariot. We all know is kind of sticky, and like single entities like dragons, things like this can really abuse their hitbox to trap them in. And I think if you had a single Centaur running around, it'd be pretty hard to catch him and pin him in unless he just charged into a blob. So I think he would be a nice mobile addition to the Beastmen Lord wise. Now you have a few more lords that they could throw in there. There's a few lesser known, like Beastmen, Beast Lord style lords, and I don't think any of them are really possible, so I won't even talk about them. But you have Ungrel Forhorn, which is probably would be my second favorite lord to see added into the game. You could see him with bound spells, or maybe even a lore of magic, which, unless I'm mistaken, in tabletop he only had bound spells because some of the horns that he had stolen was from a Bray Shaman, and that's why he has four horns. I don't think he had any to start with, and he killed two high-ranking beastmen and just stole their horns and glued them to his head. And he's outcast, of course, but he opens up the roster, the Beastman roster, to adding more units, more than any other lord, really. But we'll get to that in a minute. But he could be very unique. He would be an ambush, probably have poison, have bound spells. He would be very unique, and I think he would be extremely nice to get, especially if we didn't get Gorus. I would trade one for the other. Really, I'd be happy either way, but I think Gorus offers a lot of mobility and synergy for the Beastmen, whereas Ungrel, he could bring in a lot of new units, and yeah, he's just unique in his own fashion. You have Moonclaw, which it's not said in the lore that he's a beastman. It's more that he's like raw warp energy, and he also has a real connection with Warpstone. And I feel like the way they do Skaven, like that could be tied into some sort of Skaven thing down the line. So you may not see him right out the gate. They really need access to some sort of casting lord besides Malagor on foot. Even if you just give just like a high beast shaman or whatever you want to call him, let him get a chariot. That would be nice, a nice addition. But as far as a lord option, now I would prefer to see him as a hero, and I don't think we would be able to get him and then get like Gorus or Ungrel all in the same DLC unless they did it like this, which but that would be Torox the Brass Bull. I'm hoping they put him as a hero, but I'm almost positive he was a lord in tabletop. He was just gonna be like a Gorbel that actually works, right? He's not gonna get punted across the map. I mean, Gorbels are pretty good for their cost and for what they're made for, except they just get punted across the freaking map by everything. And one of their biggest strengths is staying in combat, because of the blood greed. Isn't it blood greed now? I'm sorry. Blood greed is good, but yep, this one's Slaughterer's Call. I mean, that's excellent for the Beastman. But if he keeps getting his ass punted out of the blob, then it does not doing you any good. So I would love to see Torox. He's probably, as far as like a corn standpoint, he's definitely my highest rated Beastman Lord if I'm looking just from like a corn love perspective. But yeah, if we had to rank the likelihood, I would say probably Torox is probably number one tier as far as the melee lords, if they give us a melee lord. And then of course caster. There's really only one true caster, and that's going to be Moonclaw. But I'd like to see all four, but I don't think that's realistic in any style. But yeah, we'll see. That's what they have to offer. They also have a Beastman hero. He's kind of like a Beast Lord, but he's just a Beast hero. That could be a good addition. Something cheap. You could put him on foot. You could put him on a chariot. He wouldn't have to be a shaman, and you wouldn't have to have a Beast Lord riding around on a chariot. You know what I mean? It would make you a lot more versatile as far as like your options go. Like you could have Malagor double melee chariot. Yeah, there's a lot of builds that would lend itself to. But down to the infantry department, if we got Ungrul, you could probably expect to see mutants and what do they call them? Humans that weren't beastmen, but they were like kind of chaotic, like turncoats or something like that. But you could expect to see those. You could expect to see mutants. You could expect to see probably several variations of the two. Now, turncoats or what lesser braze or whatever you want to call them, lesser ungor, yeah, would be like Skaven slaves, right? 200, give or take, probably no shields, and that would allow all your actual ungor to get value doing what they do best, which is remaining stocked and Vanguard deployed. And I mean, they have large unit models, but they're not really made for frontline engagement. I mean, they're used as chaff, but they're really not meant for that. And with the price disparity between the two, it's not that high. And yeah, I think you'd be better off giving them some slaves and some mutants for around about the same price, and then allowing these Ungor to be used more like they were designed to do on tabletop. Anyway, even in Warhammer, their mechanics lend themselves to ambush, to forward deployment and ambush. But yeah, so as far as infantry goes, mutants, hopefully they would have poison, because we kind of lack a cheap poison in the front lines, unless you're just going to go with spawn. And a lot of people like spawn, but I feel like they're way overrated. So if you had like a 200, 150, 200 gold, just garbage unit, allows you to deploy all your Vanguard units in a more productive manner. If you had mutants, you could also add poison to that peasant mob, that beast peasant mob, and yeah, you could really put in some work. As far as the rest of the roster, you've of course got the 4 kinds of gore, the Chaos Gores, the Khorne Gore, Salaneshi Gore, all those. I think they would be added with the third game as some sort of like bonus or expansion, if they plan on adding them at all. If they don't, I don't think it would be a big deal. It's just would be a reskin, except for the Khorne Gores. I think they had double access. But yeah, you expect to see them, expect not to see. I don't think it's really gonna happen. But it would be nice if they did that. But to see a DLC race get that sort of attention, I don't know if we can expect that or not. An easy add and something that fans have asked for, as far as I know, since the Beastmen have been on the market, is a halberd unit, is a regular Bestigor with halberd. Price wise, I think you could just bump this up to $13.50, and you could drop in a Bestigor halberd for $11.50. You'd still have a 200 gold disparity between the two, and you would have your halberd unit, and problem would be solved. Now, if you feel like that would make Beastmen too strong, or CA doesn't want to do that, that's one thing. But they have the model; it's already made. All they have to do is knock the purple tag off of it, change the price, throw it in there, and it's done. Missile units, same thing. These guys kind of get deployed haphazardly a lot because there's really no other option. They don't get to benefit from their stock and their Vanguard and all this a lot of the time because they're forced into different roles. If you had a slave unit, a turncoat unit, again, say 250, 200, 250, 300, even short range skirmishers just throwing trash at the enemy, You could use those for whatever position you feel like you were forced into using your Ungors for, and then use your Ungors around the sides of your enemy, coming up behind the enemy, doing all that good work. Cavalry department, they're missing. They have Razor Gores, but there's also Tusk Gores. And at 1,000 gold, they decreased the price of this, but I still feel like 1,000 gold's ridiculous for the Beastmen's chariots because of the fact the way the roster's put together. You can't really sink all your money into a couple chariots and then expect your cheap chaff to stay alive while you use it. So around about 700, 750, something more like the Marauder cheap chariot, or the I think the Chaos have a cheap chariot too, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, they have a cheap one. So the model's there. All they'd have to do is make it look Beast Mini, and yeah, there you go. You'd have that. Missile Cav. I think you're good where you're at. These guys are super good, and you don't have to invent something new to put there just because you've only got one. Maybe you could do missile chariots. You could do Tuskor chariots would be at missile chariots instead of melee chariots. They'd be forward firing, maybe like the Frostwolf chariot for Norska, just throwing just some garbage javelin, just so you could call him a ranged chariot. The monsters and beast department, we know we're missing the Praeton, which is like a giant flying devil deer. He'll cause terror. He'll probably have something like the Charybdis, where he causes like extra terror. We're missing a Jabberslythe again. It should have like a Mortis Engine effect. It might have bound spells. It's going to be the centerpiece if we get that. We have the Gorgon, which is a giant that kills other giants. He's like a giant on steroids. He's got four like razor blade arms. He's got frenzy. He's got fear and terror. He's got all sorts of stuff. I feel like he'll just be like a monster hunting machine. Think of like the Necrosphex. Yeah, I think that's the one from Tim King's that kills large. Think of that, but better. And that's what that's gonna be. And the only other real monsters or beasts that they're missing, one, they're missing a Manicore. They're missing it hard. I hope they add it because I feel like the Praeton is going to fill a different slot. It's going to be a lot faster than a Manticore. It's going to probably have poison. It's probably going to have some sort of extra terror causing device. I feel like they just need to really put the Manticore in. They would be missing it for so long. It's made us so one-dimensional. Again, you might get Tuskors down here, but the price, I don't really know where they put it, and keep the Razor Gores still relevant. ROR units, honestly, they could do anything. They could give us some ROR Harpies, which I feel like they should have given the Beastmen that instead of the Dark Elves. But there is an ROR Harpy unit already in the game. They could definitely ROR some Raiders, give them better melee attack, all that stuff. That pretty much rounds us out, I think, for the Beastmen. Then your other RORs would probably be some of the monsters. But I think that's what we might get. I think that's what's on the plate, and they're just going to choose what they want and serve us up. But it would be nice to get all of those things, and then I'm sure I've left some things out. Leave in the comments if you know some stuff I've left out. If you've heard any new information on this that I haven't. Again, guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Like, sub, thumbs up. Contact me on Steam. Yeah, guys, I really appreciate you. I hope you had a good holidays, and welcome back. We're going to start launching more videos. See you on the next one. Thanks, guys. Peace.